Sūrat al-Mu'minun is the 23rd surah of the Qur'an with 118 ayat. This surah deals with the fundamentals of faith, Tawheed, Risalah, resurrection and the supreme judgment of God. The surah drives these themes home by drawing attention to God's creation of man through different stages in the mother's womb, His creation of the heavens and the earth, His sending down rains and growing plants, trees and fruits, and His providing of domestic animals with various benefits for man, all together with an emphasis on the fact that man shall die and shall be raised up on the day of resurrection. The theme of Risalah is emphasized with reference to the accounts of some prophets of Islam such as Nuh, Hud, Musa and Isa, noting that all of them delivered the same message of monotheism, but were disbelieved and opposed by the people they preached to, and that all of them were helped and rescued by Allah. A reference is also made to the similar unbelief and opposition of the Meccan leaders to the message delivered to them by Muhammad. The surah ends with another reference to the inevitability of the day of resurrection and pointing out that man will not have a second chance to return to the worldly life and make amends for his lapses and mistakes. Introduction. The surah begins with an assertion: most certainly the believers have attained true success, intending to put across a point that the criterion of success and failure which people who disbelieve in Islam hold in mind is in fact erred because it is based on misconceptions and is transitory and limited in nature, in turn leading to eventual failure and not true success. On the contrary, those who follow the teachings of Islam taught by Muhammad, regarded by the disbelievers as failures, are actually the ones who are truly successful, because by their acceptance of the invitation to Islam, they are guaranteed of true success and everlasting bliss in this world as well as in the hereafter. By rejecting the message of Islam, the non-believers have incurred a profound loss and would meet with the evil consequences both in this world and the next. This is the main theme of the surah, and the whole discourse, from the beginning to the end, is meant to impress the same qualities of the believers. The first 11 verses of this surah hence mention the desired qualities of the believers. They are blessed and will attain victory. A brief translation of the first 11 verses is as follows: prosperous of the believers, those who pray humbly, who shun idle talk, who pay the prescribed alms, who guard their chastity except with the spouses of the slaves. With these they are not to blame, but anyone who seeks more than this is exceeding the limits, who are faithful to their trusts and pledges and who keep up the prayers, will rightly be given paradise as their own. That remain possess al-khashu. The first quality as described in verse 2 of this surah is those who are humble in the prayers. The Arabic word used to describe the people is khashiyun, meaning those of who possess al-khashu. According to Tafsir Ibn Kathir, a classical tafsir, the Arabic word khashu encompasses the meanings of calmness, serenity, tranquility, dignity, and humility, while Ibn Abbas explains khashiyun to mean with fear and tranquility. Al-khashu is a necessary component of salah, however can be very easily lost. In a hadith, Muhammad said, the first thing to be lifted up from this ummah will be al-khashu, until you'll see no one who has al-khashu. To attain al-khashu one must forget everything about the world and concentrate in the prayer acts, reciting the Qur'an and thinking of the verses one reads and bearing death, grave and the torment in mind so that he never loses concentration. In his tafsir, Ibn Kathir writes, khashu is gained by the fear of Allah and the sense that He is always watching. Quote, in another section he says, the sight of al-khashu is in the heart and heart is the king of the limbs. So if one intends to pray wholeheartedly, the limbs will follow the heart as Allah says, and seek help in patience and salat, and truly it is extremely heavy and hard, except for khashiyun. The meaning is that the burden of prayer is heavy indeed, except for those who have khashu. Regarding the same verse, and seek help in patience and salat, and truly it is extremely heavy and hard, except for khashiyun. Ibn Taymiyyah is of the opinion that this implies condemnation of those who are not khashiyun. Condemnation only applies when something obligatory is not done, or when something forbidden is done. If those who do not have khushu are to be condemned, this indicates that khushu is obligatory. In his book titled Towards Understanding the Qur'an, Islamic thinker and philosopher Abul Ala Maududi cites a notion that al-khushu of the heart is to fear and stand in awe of a powerful person, and al-khushu of the body is to bow one's head and lower one's gaze and voice in his presence. In Salah, one is required to show al-khushu, both of the heart and of the body, and this is the essence of this Islamic prayer. It has been reported that when Muhammad once saw a person offering salah as well as playing with his beard, he remarked, had he khushu in his heart, his body would have manifested it. Maududi then continues, though al-khushu is actually a condition of the heart, as stated by the above tradition, it is manifested by the body as a matter of course. The Sharia has enjoined certain etiquette which, on the one hand, helps produce al-khushu in the heart, and on the other, helps sustain the physical act of the prayer in spite of the fluctuating condition of the heart. According to this etiquette, one should neither turn to the right or left, nor raise one's head to look up. One may, however, look around from the corner of the eye, but as far as possible, one must fix the gaze on the place where the forehead would rest in prostration. One is also forbidden to shift about, incline sideways, fold the garments or shake off dust from them. It is also forbidden that while going down for prostration, one should clean the place where one would sit or perform prostration. Similarly, it is disrespectful that one should stand stuffy erect, recite the verses of the Qur'an in a loud resounding voice, or sing them, or belch or yawn repeatedly and noisily. It has also not been approved that one should offer the prayer in a hurry. The injunction is that each article of the prayer should be performed in perfect peace and tranquility, and unless one article has been completely performed, the next should not be begun. If one feels hurt by something during the prayer, one may cast it aside by one hand, but moving the hand repeatedly or using both the hands for the purpose is prohibited. With this etiquette of the body, it is also important that one should irrelevant things during the prayer. If thoughts come to the mind in tension, it is a natural human weakness, but one should try one's best and try to ensure with one's utmost that the mind and heart are wholly turned towards Allah, and the mind is in full harmony and tune with the tongue. And as soon as one becomes conscious of irrelevant thoughts, one should immediately turn the attention to the prayer. Turn away from al-lagw. The next quality gathered from verse 3 is that the believers turn away from al-lagw. The Arabic word al-lagw, as explained by Ibn Kathir in his tafsir, refers to falsehood, which encompasses all acts of sin, including the greatest of them, i.e., shirk in Islam, and any words or deeds that are of no benefit. In a Sahih hadith from the Al-Tirmidhi collection of ahadith, Muhammad is reported to have said, "Out of a person being a good Muslim is his leaving alone what does not benefit him," while in the Sahih al-Bukhari he is also reported to have said, "Let he who truly believes in Allah and the last day speak good or be silent." In his Musnad Ahmad, Imam Ahmad has reported, "The faith of a man cannot be straight unless his heart is straight, and his heart cannot be straight unless his tongue becomes straight." It was from the manners of the Sahaba to speak very little, while Abu Dharr al-Ghifari said, "Adopt silence. This is the way of causing shaitan to run away. It is a supporter to you in the matter of your religion." Abdallah ibn Mas'ud is reported to have said, "By the one other than whom there is no God on this earth, there is no one more deserving of long imprisonment than the tongue." In another place, Surah 2-83 mentions that the covenant taken by Musa from Bani Israel had also included the condition that they should indulge in good and worthwhile conversation, while being kind to parents, kindred, orphans and those in need, practice regular charity and to worship God alone. While Surah 104-1-19 condemns those who are scandal, gossip-mongers and backbiters in strong terms, describing the punishment as nay, but verily he will be flung to the consuming one, and what will explain to thee what the consuming one is? The fire of Allah kindled, which rises above the hearts. Surely it shall be closed over upon them in outstretched columns, thus hinting that believers need to steer clear of such acts. Pay the zakat. Verse 4 says that the believers pay zakat, i.e., poor due that is paid on one's wealth. Commentators on the Qur'an, like Ibn Kathir, are of the opinion that this verse could also be referring to the poor Jew mentioned in Surah 6-141, which states, "Pay the Jew thereof on the day of the harvest," as well as that it could be that what is meant here by zakat is purification of the soul from shirk and filth, as in Surah 91-9-10, which says, "Indeed he succeeds who purifies himself, and indeed he fails who corrupts himself." The commentators are hence of the opinion that probably both meanings are intended, purification of the soul as well as purification of one's wealth, because that is also part of the purification of the soul, and the true believer is one who pays attention to both matters. Surah 9-60 lists those who are eligible to receive zakat by saying, "Alms are for the poor and the needy, and those are employed to administer the, for those whose hearts have been reconciled, for those in bondage and in debt, in the cause of Allah, and for the wayfarer, ordained by Allah, and Allah is full of knowledge and wisdom." While Surah 17:26 commands the believers to render to the kindred their due rights, as to those in want, and to the wayfarer, but squander not in the manner of a spendthrift. The believers are also advised to listen and obey and spend in charity for the benefit of your own soul, and be from the ones who achieve prosperity, as mentioned in Surah 64-16. Avoid zina, i.e., guard the chastity. The verses 5-7 of this surah says, "And who guard the modesty, save from the wives of that the right hands possess. For then they are not blameworthy, but whoso craveth beyond that, such a transgresses." Zina is one of the major sins in Islam, concerning which stern warnings have been issued in the Quran as well as authentic hadith attributed to Muhammad. In Surah 17:32, God says, "Come not near to zina. Verily, it is fahishah and an evil way." The Quran also says that homosexuality too is haram, and it is against the natural inclination which God has placed in man, whereby the male is inclined towards female and vice versa. In an authentic hadith from the Tirmidhi collection, Muhammad is reported to have said, "There is nothing I fear for my ummah more than the deed of the people of Lot." Surah 27-54-58 refers to the punishment that befell the people of Lot, and Lot when he said to his people, "Do you commit al-fahishah while you see? Do you practice your lusts on men instead of women? Nay, but you are a people who behave senselessly." There was no other answer given by his people except that they said, "Drive out the family of Lut from your city. Verily, these are men who want to be clean and pure." So we saved him and his family, except his wife. We destined her to be of those who remained behind, and we rained down on them a rain. So evil was the rain of those who were warned. Muhammad has also thus said, "Whoever of you finds doing the deed of the people of Lot, kill the one who does it and the one to whom it is done." Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah is of the opinion that both of them, fornication and homosexuality, involve immorality that goes against the wisdom of Allah's creation and commandment. For homosexuality involves innumerable evil and harms, and the one to whom it is done would be better off being killed than having this done to him, because after that he will become so evil and so corrupt that there can be no hope of his being reformed, and all good is lost for him, and he will no longer feel any shame before Allah or before his creation. The scholars differed as to whether the one to whom it is done will ever enter paradise. There are two opinions which I heard Shaykh al-Islam narrate. Are faithful to the covenants. The next verse, i.e., Surah 23-8, stresses on the quality trust that the believers are to possess, describing them as those who faithfully observe the trusts and the covenants. A similar message is found in Surah 4:58, where the Qur'an ordains God's command as, "Verily, Allah commands that you should render back the trust to those to whom they are due." The believers in Islam are thus ordered fulfill the terms and conditions of the trusts which are placed in the charge. The Arabic word al-amana includes all kinds of trusts which are placed in the charge, including those placed by God as well as those placed by the society or individuals. Similarly, the Arabic term aqd encompasses all compacts, pledges, and promises made between God and man, and amongst men themselves. Muhammad would always impress the importance of the fulfillment of pledges in his addresses to the people. On one occasion he is reported to have said, "The one who does not fulfill the terms of his trust has no faith, and the one who does not keep promises and pledges has no Islam." Muhammad in Sahih Muslim is also reported to have said, "The rights will be rendered back to those to whom they are due, and even the sheep that does not have horns will take revenge from the horned sheep." And on another occasion he is reported to have said, "Certainly, al-Imana descended from the heaven and settled in the roots of the hearts of the faithful believers, and then the Qur'an was revealed, and the people read the Qur'an and also learnt it from the Sunnah." Regarding the verse 8 from Surah Al-Mu'minun, Tafsir Ibn Kathir says, "When they are entrusted with something, they do not betray the trust, but they fulfill it, and when they make a promise or make a pledge, they are true to the word." 4 characteristics of a hypocrite. According to a tradition reported both by Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Muhammad is reported to have said, 4 characteristics are such that if a person has all the 4 in him, he is beyond any doubt a hypocrite, and the one who has one of these is a hypocrite to that extent till he gives it up. When something is placed in his trust, he commits breach of the trust. When he speaks, he tells a lie. When he makes a promise, he breaks it, and when he has a quarrel with somebody, he exceeds all limits. Strictly guard the Sūrat. In the next verse, i.e., verse 9, Allah mentions preserving of Salah as one of the important characteristics of successful believers. The verse 2 implied the believer's humility during act of performing Salah, while verse 9 refers to the individual prayers offered in their own times. Believers are described as those strictly adhering to the prescribed times, performing them with due regard to the prerequisites, conditions and articles, with clean body and dress, and necessary ablutions. Believers are required to not regard the prayers as an unnecessary burden, completing the task mechanically, but are to understand the recital while being conscious that they are supplicating like humble servants. Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said, "The first duty that Allah the Supreme has ordained upon my nation is that of offering prayer, and indeed prayer is the first thing that will be taken account of on the day of resurrection, as well as whoever keeps the prayer established has kept his religion established, and whoever leaves prayer has demolished religion." While the Quran makes it clear that the purpose for creation is to worship Allah alone, and that the most excellent way of praying is to offer salah standing before Allah in devout obedience, the Islamic adhan, which is recited at time of each prayer, contains two verses, Hayya ala salah and Hayya ala falah, which translate to "come to salah" and "come to success" respectively, indicating that by performing salah one may attain eternal success. In a hadith reference, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud narrates, "I asked Allah's messenger, Prophet Muhammad, O messenger of Allah, which deed is most beloved to Allah? He said, prayer at the appointed time. I said, then what? He said, kindness to parents. I said, then what? He said, jihad in the way of Allah. Prophet Muhammad is also reported to have likened the salah to 5 daily baths that cleanse a person's sins. Abu Hurairah narrates that, I heard Allah's apostle saying, if there was a river at the door of any one of you and he took a bath in it 5 times a day, would you notice any dirt on him? They said, not a trace of dirt would be left. The Prophet added, that is the example of the 5 prayers with which Allah blots out evil deeds. The Quran has also pointed out that believers perform salah only to earn the pleasure of Allah and not to impress anyone else, calling anyone who does so a hypocrite. Moreover, those who abandon salah are warned of dire consequences, while only those who humbly submit themselves to Allah alone are said to have ease in offering it. In Surah Al-Ma'arij, Allah uses the word halwan to describe the restless and impatient nature of man, stating that whenever he is afflicted with trouble he lacks patience and trembles in despair. This occurs due to shortcomings in his faith, whereas when he is given in abundance he becomes ungrateful towards Allah. He is also arrogant and uncaring towards those less fortunate than him. The Quran then assures the observance of salah as way to preserve hope in times of grievance and humbleness, as well as humility in periods of bountiful life. Salah thus has the power to erase the roots of evil deeds which bring barriers in the society, giving birth to racial as well as financial discriminations and sinful intentions. Good news of paradise for the believers. After mentioning the characteristics of the successful believer, God gives them the good news of Firdaus. Muhammad said, if you ask Allah for paradise, then ask him for Firdaus, for it is the highest part of paradise, in the middle of paradise, and from it spring the rivers of paradise, and above it is the throne of the Most Merciful. Abu Hurairah said, the Messenger of Allah said, there is not one among you who does not have 2 homes, a home in paradise and a home in hell. If he dies and enters hell, the people of paradise will inherit his home, and this is what Allah said, these are indeed the heirs. The creation of man in the womb. A brief translation of the verses 12 to 16 verses is as follows: we created man from an essence of clay. Then we placed him as a drop of fluid in a safe place. Then we made that drop into a clinging form, and we made that form into a lump of flesh, and we made that lump into bones, and we clothed those bones with flesh, and later we made him into other forms. Glory be to God, the best of creators. Then you will die, and then, on the day of resurrection, you'll be raised up again. The Quran mentions that human development passes through a number of distinct stages. These stages are descriptive of the embryo's external appearance and have been assigned the following names: Nutfa, Alaqah, Mudghah, Idam, Lam and Nashra. Nutfa meaning a drop of fluid, a small amount of water. Alaqah. The Quran mentions the term Alaqah as the second stage of human prenatal development. The word Alaqah, according to many linguistic Arabic dictionaries, has several meanings: leech, coagulated blood, blood clot, or the early stage of the embryo. The plural of alaqah is alaq. See Surah al-Alaq. Mudghah. The Qur'an mentions the term mudghah as the third stage of human prenatal development. The word mudghah, according to linguistic Arabic dictionaries, has several meanings. The first meaning is something that has been chewed by the teeth. A second meaning is incorporated in the derived meaning muda al-umur, which means the small substances. Quote, a third meaning of mudghah, mentioned by some Quranic commentators: bulsh, a piece of meat of a size that can be chewed. Idam. The Quranic term idam meaning skeleton, bones. Lam. The Quranic term lam meaning muscles, flesh. Nashar.